Hi, I'm Chad with Move Forward Guitar. This lesson is from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain intervals as well as whole steps and half steps. First off, download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. It contains everything that I'm talking about in this lesson, all the charts and diagrams, as well as much more, so it'll be really useful to you. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download that. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it may not be available as you're watching this lesson. And if it's not available yet, it'll say coming soon. And if you'd like to get notified when it is available, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a notification for when it is available and let you download it. And also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all the charts and diagrams will be on the screen. And also, we add at least one new lesson every day, so be sure to subscribe. So the first building blocks for understanding music and music theory are intervals. And all an interval is the distance between two notes. And those notes can be right next to each other or they can be far apart. And all intervals have some sort of name, which I'm going to explain in this lesson as we go through this lesson. But before I dive into intervals, I need to make sure that you understand what half steps and whole steps are, also known as whole tones or semitones. So a half step is the distance between two notes that are one fret apart. So you can see from here, this note to this note is one fret apart, which means that these two notes are a half step apart or a semitone. And then a whole step is 2 frets apart. So you can see from this note to this note is 2 frets apart, if you count up 1, 2, so that's a whole step or a whole tone. And I just showed you right here on the fretboard, but this is the same no matter where these notes would lie. They could lie on any string or any place on the fretboard. The distance between a half step is 1 fret apart and a whole step is 2 frets apart. And a lot of times you'll say 3 whole steps, a step and a half. So that's just combining these. So obviously 3 whole steps would just be 3 whole steps, which would be 6 frets apart. And as we go through, that'll be easier to understand, I think. So that's just something I wanted to get out of the way as we're going through this lesson, because I'm going to say half step and whole step a lot, or I'll combine the whole steps. I'll say 3 whole steps or whatever. So it's really important just to make sure that you understand what a half step and a whole step is on a guitar. So now we're going to talk about intervals, and like I said, intervals are the distance between any 2 notes. And all we're going to do is start with any one note. We're just going to start right here. You can see I have a note right here. That would be a G note, but this would work no matter where I was starting. I'm just starting here to make it easy. That it being a G doesn't really matter for this lesson. And also really quick, I just want to make sure that you're able to visualize this diagram correctly. Right here where I'm drawing this line is the 6th string of the guitar, and right here would be the 1st string, and then these are all the strings in between, and then obviously all these vertical lines are all the frets. So I just want to make sure that you're visualizing this correctly as we go through this lesson. So if we start from this one note, which is a G note, but like I said, that doesn't matter. This will be the same no matter where we would start on the fretboard, because all we're going to be talking about is intervals. We're not talking about note names right now. So we start from one spot right here. If we were to go 1 fret up and put another note, that would be a minor second apart or a flat second. So notes that are a half step apart are a minor second apart or a flat 2, you'll hear it called. The next interval, if you go up 1 more fret, is a major second apart, or you'll just hear it called a 2, because a lot of times you'll be talking 1, 2, flat 3, etc. So a whole step apart, 2 notes that are a whole step apart are a major second. If you go up 1 more half step, you're at a minor third. So 2 notes that are a step and a half apart are a minor third or a flat 3. If you go up another half step, it becomes a major third. So 2 notes that are 2 whole steps apart are a major third apart. If we go up another half step, it becomes a perfect 4th. So 2 notes that are 2.5 steps apart are a perfect 4th, or just a 4. Go up another half step, it becomes a diminished 5th, or also called a tritone, or you could call it a flat 5, and that's 3 whole steps apart. So two notes that are 3 whole steps apart are diminished fifth apart. If you go up another half step, that becomes a perfect fifth, or just a 5. So two notes that are 3.5 steps apart, that distance is a perfect fifth. If you go up another half step, that becomes an augmented fifth, or a sharp 5, or it could also be called a minor sixth or a flat 6. And that distance is 4 whole steps apart. If you go up another half step, you end up at 4.5 steps. That's a major sixth apart, or just a 6, or sometimes, depending on the situation, it'll be called a diminished seventh, which is a double flat 7. If you go up another half step, you're at a minor seventh, or a flat 7, so that's 5 whole steps apart. Then you go up another half step, and you're at a major seventh, or just a 7, so that's 5.5 steps apart. And then we're going to talk about one more interval for this lesson, and that's another half step up, which is called an octave, or you'll see it labeled an 8. And an octave is the same note that you started with, 12 frets apart, or 6 whole steps. So these two notes are the exact same note, 1 octave apart. This one right here is 1 octave higher than this one. And like I said, an octave is 6 whole steps, or 12 frets. And then these are the intervals that we're going to talk about for now. These are the most important intervals to understand. If I was to go to the next half step, I would be a flat 9 apart, which would be the same as a flat 2, 1 octave apart, and so on. You would do that, just continually go up. You'd have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and as high as a guitar would let you go. And that's something I'll talk about in other lessons. That becomes confusing just if you try to understand it right now. But right now, it's just important to understand from your starting point going up to an octave, which is 12 frets apart. And I don't expect you just to memorize this or even fully understand what this is all about yet. It's just important to understand that intervals are the distance between two notes, and this is the foundation for everything you're going to learn in music theory. You're going to build off of this. Intervals are a part of everything you do in music. It's how you build chords, it's how you build scales, and these are the names that they have, and you'll learn more about the names as you start learning about scales and learn about chords and chord construction, all that. And like I said, we'll dive deeper into this in other lessons. And like I said, you don't need to memorize this right now, but this is a good place to start. And download that e-guide so you can use it as a reference anytime you're wondering what an interval is called. You can just quickly look it up and have that as a reference. So you can just move on to the next lesson where we're going to dive deeper into music theory. And be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.